Hello, everyone. I'm Colin of WrestleZone.com, joined by Robert DeFelice, talking to talk about Friday Night SmackDown, among other things, this week. But Robert, how are you doing today?
I could be better, Colin. A lot of people lost their jobs yesterday, and I assume that will be the bulk of the conversation that we have tonight.
It will be. I haven't gotten a chance to talk about it on a stream yet. I mean, the wrestling world spins on. I had to write 3 articles today alone because people were commenting about these releases, and it's disheartening stuff where, these people live in the dreams and they're swept away at the drop of a hat like that. Obviously lots to talk about, but we do have SmackDown. Then it was a slow show, but we do have some things to get into. And before we do, just want to remind you all, this show, like everything we do here, is available on all of our platforms: SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be. We've got you covered. So I guess we'll start with the good. Roman Reigns was back on SmackDown this week. He acknowledged the tribal chief. He was greatly missed. He is back. He was apparently at a private island last week running around naked, which was fantastic. And he also, I guess, combine it all here. He also buried Raw by saying that in the 1 week he was gone, SmackDown sucked so much that it was almost like Raw. Not quite that bad, but almost. But basically, that set up a confrontation for the second week in a row between the Usos and the New Day. And this time around, DJ's, I got distracted. DJ's asking about the releases. DJ, don't you worry, we will get into them. Just want to run through the few noteworthy things from SmackDown first. But with the Usos and the New Day setting up this confrontation with King Woods saying, okay, I want to face Jay in a singles match. If I win, Jay has to bow down to me. He has to bend the knee. But if Jay wins, I will acknowledge the tribal chief. And I thought that was a pretty fun way of setting up what turned out to be a pretty darn fun main event. But I'll pause there so we can talk about Roman being back and this ongoing saga with the New Day.
I think if they want to really pop a rating, they should tease showing footage of Roman Reigns running around naked on a private island. Because that's how you get numbers these days, okay? That's something what I think they should do to pop a rating. Now, I like that Woods is getting the rub here. It's good. It makes sense. I had completely blanked until about 2 minutes before the show's over that they're doing all of this because Roman's going to fight E at Survivor Series. But you wouldn't know that because they're not plugging Survivor Series at all. You would think with the hot angle of Charlotte and Becky, and they would have been like, hey, guess what? They're going to fight at Survivor Series, and you know how heated it gets when they're around. You'd think they'd do that. You'd think they'd be like, hey, this is a message to Big E because I'm fighting him at Survivor Series. No, but I have a theory that they probably haven't plugged Survivor Series because you got to plug 5-on-5s, and they didn't know who was going to be in the 5-on-5s because they didn't know who was going to lose their job.
It's true.
So,
it's true.
That's my
or at least
theory.
easy to see. Yeah. I admittedly I forgot that. I don't know. For me, my mind kind of buys into what they the way they frame it. It's like, okay, SmackDown's kind of doing their thing, Raw's doing their thing. Some Big E's off, he's feuding with Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens over there, and the New Day is doing their thing with Roman Reigns. But of course, in the background, they will probably do Big E versus Roman for Survivor Series, but they had kind of built up to that. Now they're that's on the back burner while still doing this New Day. It's very kind of convoluted, but I do think in some capacity we'll be getting New Day and Bloodline as not just saying at Survivor Series, potentially. I would say in 2 matches with the singles and tag matches there, maybe. But at the very least, I feel like we are going to get Big E and Roman. And Survivor Series is quickly approaching, so you would hope that would be a little more prominently featured here in the build-up.
It's weird because there's how many episodes of SmackDown left? You got next week.
Maybe one more.
And the week after. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's odd because Christina Salin, who, by the way, isn't with the company anymore, said on a investor call yesterday that Survivor Series is a tentpole event for the company. They were in Brooklyn, by God, New York, at the Barclays Center. You'd think they'd be making a huge deal out of this card. Now you can say, well, Robert, it's November 5th. November's just getting started. Yes, but they're already down to 2 episodes of SmackDown, 2 episodes of Raw. Start plugging this thing. We need to get it underway quick.
That's how you get the big fight feel. You got to build it up. You got to really heated up across
Roman
time.
and Cena for like 5 weeks.
Right.
It was great.
Right, and even then, like they could have done more. Like 5 weeks was like great for what we got. With this, like they're already down to less than 3. So
Yeah.
it's time to get this going. And that's just saying maybe they could do a 3-on-3. I'd like that. I mean, we already got
oh my god, 3-on-3 in terms of
New Day Bloodline.
Oh, I thought he was saying like let's add NXT. No, we're done with those days.
Those days were gone. But I think we're going to get New Day Bloodline again in some capacity. They already did it on Raw in September, so I feel like they might do that maybe at some point over the build-up here, especially if they do wind up emphasizing Big E and Roman. But kind of looking maybe a little further than that, another potential direction here would be to see Roman and Xavier Woods, the King versus the Tribal Chief. I would like that very much, potentially for like the Day 1 pay-per-view in January if they could draw it out smartly enough.
Royal Rumble, because like who cares? Woods is royalty. You can drag it out to the Royal Rumble.
I just worry, it's the problem as it is anyway. Just like I don't trust them to do these like long stories to the point that's like if they're already doing this now. And then they're going to do something.
They can't even do short stories anymore. And I know,
right?
Look, I know it's popular to crap on WWE, but like they don't even do short stories properly anymore. I don't know what's going on with this company. They're like a legacy brand at this point, and I don't know where the direction of their modern content is heading. Thank God Woods is King of the Ring, because that's like one of the only cool things this company has.
Right. And for me, there's that. Roman, like, there's something that's just so beautiful about Roman, like, fully acknowledging that Raw sucks, and then fully, like, even saying SmackDown sucks without him. Nesh had said earlier in the show that SmackDown didn't suck without him. I mean, it didn't suck, but it wasn't like, I feel like it is much better with him on the show. And then that's an indictment on the strength of the depth of the product. And then if you factor in they're releasing groups of people at a time, so then that depth literally is just disappearing through their own actions.
That depth no longer exists.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when it was like, my God, they have so many people. Now it's like, who do they have?
Right. And at the very least, it's becoming very top heavy in that sense. But a lot of comments here, again, criticizing the lack of build-up for Survivor Series. I would agree. There's no team. Like, we don't know who's going to be on Team SmackDown. We don't know what matches we're going to get. Again, the time is ticking. It's time to get this going. Michael Beltran going as far to say it was an atrocious show. I don't know if I'd go atrocious, but it definitely was not good. Again, for me, I'm very biased. I enjoy the Roman stuff, so that kind of props it up for me. If this was another show without Roman, oh boy, like this would have been rough. And it was anyway. Like it's my job to cover the show from a news perspective. And every segment. Okay, this happened, but pretty skippable. Not really newsworthy. Not really important. You had happy talk with Viking Raiders, and I will say this wasn't like necessarily worth an article or anything, but at one point, Madcap Moss, the master of usually like corny bad jokes, but now he's devolved into just literally like offensive jokes. Quote unquote, he was talking to Viking Raiders, and he said, "How did the young woman suffocate? She took a liking to a Viking." I was like, "What? What? What are we, Robert? What? This man, like, no."
Okay, that's a choice.
Oh my gosh!
I think he means they smell. They smell.
That was not the way it came across. I am sorry. Okay. Oh my god!
Or he murdered her.
What?
Violently, or the Viking murdered her violently.
Either way, it's a bad look.
It's a bad.
My mind went to like somewhere like even worse than that. I'm not going to get into that, but like my gosh, this was bad. And yeah, maybe he'd be better off just doing something with a 24/7 title. Sure, better than this, because like, at least then he wasn't getting like potential nuclear heat for stuff like that. Because like that's really bad. But
I bet you anything that's cut out of the future airings of the show, you can't just make jokes about women suffocating. Like that's
2021, Robert. It's 2021. Now
you should make. like I'd argue in 2001 you shouldn't make those
Right.
jokes. Like,
Right. So yes. Don't want to spend too much time on that, but my gosh, that was not great.
how
Another
can you
thing.
not? Like that's quite the joke.
Another thing here, just a lot of meh on this show because, as DJ's saying here, Shotzi's new character reminds him of the new vicious side of Raw's Damian Priest. Again, I say as I did last week, Shotzi could have been a great babyface. And tonight didn't. I mean, I thought it was a good promo, but again, like kind of like when Becky Lynch came back, I'm like, I'm not really buying what they're selling. I'm like, this is someone that feels as like they could really be this wonderful, likable babyface. She got great reactions last week. She turned heel on Sasha Banks. And now she's saying that she lost title opportunities. What she did, she literally beat the tag team champions, never got a title shot. And then she, got this match with Sasha Banks. I'm sorry, with Charlotte last week, lost it. And she kind of, minus 1%, she lost her tag team partner. She was drafted away. And that kind of blurs the line of like, they moved her away. But, I digress. I think that this is odd, especially because SmackDown is lacking those top level baby faces beyond Sasha Banks. Again, the lack of depth being a problem, and Nesha saying she doesn't want Sasha as a heel, and I would agree.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I don't want Shotzi as a heel though, because Shotzi is a fun-loving, energetic babyface. Sasha Banks, people love her. But she understands, she's kind of like a Kardashian.
Right.
In the way that she's like, they know, the Kardashians know that they're not liked, that they're kind of above others, or at least they come across that way. And that's what Sasha is on television, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. And yeah, what we kind of talked about last week, that she's, beyond being face and heel, but maybe more just that's her. She's Sasha Banks, like period, and then she can differ between the two as needed. We'll see how it goes. I'm sure it could be a good feud. I mean, I thought the promo, like the message was good, but again, just like more of a problem for me with, in general, just the lack. Not necessarily being on board with the choice in the first place, but again, I digress. We'll run through the rest of SmackDown here. So we talk about the releases. We had Cesaro and Mansoor team up, and they lost to Los Lotharios. So Robert, Mansoor is not going to win the world title at the next Saudi Arabia show.
No, what you need to understand is Mansoor will one day win that world title at a Saudi Arabia show. One day. And they got like 8 years to do it. They got to do it right now. They got to do it like in 2025 or 6. That's what it's going to be. Mansoor, who at this point will be jacked to the nines. And he'll beat Brock Lesnar. It'll be great. It'll be a great redemption story for Saudi Arabia. But for now, he's for some reason teaming with Cesaro.
Because they have nobody else. Because they're forced to just like use what they got at this point. Whoever's left.
Can you believe that like Cesaro 6 months ago was fighting Roman Reigns? I told you, listen, I didn't want to be right about this.
And I didn't want you to be right. No.
Oh my God, you're so negative. Oh my God. Like, look, I said Cesaro's going to beat Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, and that is the only thing they'll ever give him, and they will hang their hat on he beat Seth Rollins at WrestleMania forever, and they did. That's a shame. Honestly, Cesaro is one of those people who is all elite as a competitor in my mind, and I'd like his promotional affiliation to show the same.
DJ is hinting that as well. If not, we're not talking about wanting someone to get fired, but the valid point being that they might be better off elsewhere, whether they leave willingly or not. And again, we'll talk about the releases because that's true for a lot of people that got released yesterday. But yeah, it is really just a bummer. And again, I didn't want them to lose this match. I didn't want them to win this match because I didn't want Cesaro to lose. But you're trying to build up Angel Garza and Humberto as a new team, so at least kind of follow that through and have them win their debut on SmackDown, their first match. So some credit for that, I guess. Another thing, not super great. We had Ricochet debut on SmackDown, and he goes from losing to Drew McIntyre on Raw to losing to Drew McIntyre on SmackDown. He looked great in doing so. he's immensely talented. Some might say, as Robert just said, all elite as a competitor in his own way. But
They got enough. Look, Ricochet can flip. I like Ricochet. He's great. Nobody can flip like Ricochet does. And I just think that Drew McIntyre is being built to face Brock Lesnar and or Roman Reigns and or both within the next few months.
So it seems like it was a good claymore midair, as Stephen Chambers is saying. It was a fun spot to end the match. Again, I say I was hoping for better for Ricochet. And we had like a tease of a team with Mustafa Ali, but then Ricochet shot him down. Rightfully so, because he said, oh, you treated Mansoor terribly, so why would I want to team with you? But we've already seen these guys feud for like several weeks on Raw, just like a year ago. So I'm not sure if that's exactly what I want to see right now. But I guess I'd rather have both guys on TV than not. So I guess that is a silver lining for that as well. One more thing to really kind of, again, wrap up a fairly light episode of SmackDown. We saw Hit Row sans BFAB, and that just didn't feel right. I'll admit it. I said it last week. I don't love Hit Row, but my gosh, like they felt like a three-legged table without BFAB out there.
Did they change their theme song yet?
I admittedly missed when they came out. I don't know if they did.
Because they should.
Yeah.
Because the main rapper on that track is no longer working for your company.
And
realistically, when she was drafted and they called her Fab B, perhaps the writing was on the wall.
Speaking of which, Pat McAfee, not sure if he was like trying to pay tribute or I don't know like what the message here was, but like when Hit Row was going out to go out to the ring, he said, "Oh, this is going to be fabulous." I was like,
"Yeah,
I'm not sure about that." Whether that was like again, I can take it either way.
I think that's meant to be a tribute.
All right. Well, a sad one nonetheless. Again, I guess we'll wrap up the SmackDown talk and get onto the releases. So, Robert, for a fairly light episode of SmackDown tonight, what do you think?
6. So it's a very light episode.
I'll go for a 6, and that's like mostly for the Bloodline New Day stuff. Yeah. So, with that being said, we have 18 releases to talk about. I have the list pulled up right here. And Robert, this list is something else. We've got BFAB, which we just said, Ember Moon, Eva Marie, Frankie Monet, my gosh, Grand Metalik, Harry Smith, Jeet Rama, Jesse Kamea, Karrion Kross, Katrina Cortez, Keith Lee, of all people, Lindsay Dorado, Mia Yim, Nia Jax, Oni Lorcan, Scarlett, I don't know how to pronounce the last name, Scarlett Bordeaux, Trey Baxter, and Zeta Ramir. Oh my gosh. I admittedly wasn't working last night, and this stuff just hit the fan.
No, you were. You were. The poor guy who came into the chat like, oh, this is very surprising.
There was a report earlier in the day that the releases would be in the single digits. So my naive butt is thinking, all right, not going to be good, but like maybe it'll be okay. Maybe some people that don't get used, maybe some people that like you could kind of see coming. And that's just saying we never even got to see Harry Smith. So like you kind of, if they decide to go a different way, like, all right, that's fine. But my gosh, Robert, former NXT champions, Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, people that have a lot of potential that sell a lot of merchandise, Hit Row's BFAB, that t-shirt selling like hotcakes. And you've got Frankie Monet, who should have been by all rights a major star. People never got the chance to show up to prove what they could do. Grand Metalik, Lindsay Dorado, Mia Yim never got used on the main roster. Oni Lorcan, criminally underrated. Scarlett and Karrion, to me, could have been huge stars, and they were mishandled from the get-go. We never even got to see Karrion and Scarlett together on the main roster. And then we got Keith Lee, who by all rights should have been an absolutely like top-level main event star, squandered, all for quote-unquote budget cuts. And it's also complicated because potentially it's linked to some of them to vaccination status, but all together, a very crappy situation, a very sad situation, a very frustrating situation, to say the least.
Let's dissect some of the easier ones. Jeet Rama, great Indian superstar. Poor guy, NXT India wasn't going to take off. I guess, that just wasn't meant to be. But Jeet Rama, I'm sure he'll get another shot one day when they're ready to expand. Zeta Ramir, she'll be fine. She'll work more on the indies. Katarina Cortez, poor thing, just tweeted that she's going to lose her work visa and she'll have to sell everything that she's worked so hard for. I hope that situation works out very okay for her. She was on Raw with Sin Cara, didn't go too far, but I believe that she'll be able to stay in the country, maybe get some work for AEW, maybe get some work for Impact, and she'll be all right. Now, let's move up in the ladder a little bit. Oni Lorcan will be fine. Biff Busick is already booked to work the 16 Gold Carat tournament in Germany in March, and that's great. Scarlett, the writing was on the wall. I think that she is great. I think that for the style of women's wrestling that they are gravitating towards, Scarlett Bordeaux fits that mold. She looks amazing. She can easily, put on a good match. I don't know how they let her go, but I saw it coming because they never had her on Raw with Karrion Kross. But it doesn't matter because they let Karrion Kross go. And what the hell? You can't. It's weird with guys like Cross, with guys like Keith, with Adam Cole, because you can't say that they had bad runs.
No.
Karrion Kross spent 17 months on television, and only, the last month or so was bad. Karrion Kross was pushed to the moon on NXT. Karrion Kross was, the NXT champion twice. Keith Lee. I don't know how the fuck you let go of Keith Lee. Brock Lesnar put this guy over. Never mind, even if you take out the NXT stuff, even if you take out, the
beating Randy Orton, all of his
the
good
War
stuff on
Games, the all that stuff. Brock Lesnar got a face-to-face with this guy in the Royal Rumble and said, "Who is this motherfucker?" And was like, "Oh, I want to fight him." How do you have Brock Lesnar say to somebody, "I want to fight him," and then not utilize them? And then, by the way, he spent 6 months off because he had COVID and he was fighting for his life. How do you let go of this person?
I don't know, man. I really don't. I really don't.
Look, I'm going to make a statement here. I'm not usually the guy to do this, but I do want to point this out. It's very weird to me that the only members of the flop that was Retribution that got released are the women. How do you have a seasoned veteran like Mia Yim and you never use her in the ring? How do you not use her? Maybe Mercedes Martinez, maybe they said, you know what? You're a little more advanced in age, you're a little more rooted in professional wrestling than we would like. But how do you not do more with Mia Yim? How do you not do more with this absolute badass of a women's wrestler? I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
No, I don't. It's mind-boggling, baffling. Dennis Bernard Boldenship again saying that the releases are surprising, but Edmund Moon and Keith Lee is a shock. WWE dropped the ball. DJ's upset that they rehired Eva and fired her, and they're saying that we lost our evolution. But I definitely agree on Mia Yim, as you were just saying, Robert. That's someone that could have been amazing in the women's division. She never even got the chance to be on Raw other than Retribution. To be Mia Yim, to not be she was Reckoning, and Mercedes was a Retaliation.
Yes.
But
and by the way, you bothered to draft Keith Lee in the draft. You bothered to have him as a key part of Monday Night Raw in the draft. What is this?
I don't know. it's a rough time. I mean, it's so disheartening. It's again for me like it's more so it's like this group itself is like really upsetting. It's again Keith Lee, Karen Cross, Mayhem, all these people. It could be so great if they just got the chance. I listened to Lince Dorado give like he had a message about his release today on Instagram. So much passion, so much like genuine, seems like a genuinely likable guy, so much charisma. Never had to show up on WWE. I'm like, if they gave this guy like just a mere chance to show that in its own right, not as Lucha House Party, dancing around, whatever. Like this guy could be great as well. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Bryan Danielson was saying for years, "Let me wrestle Grand Metalik," and I guarantee you they'll do it on an episode of Dark in like the next 3 months or so. Bryan Danielson will wrestle Grand Metalik on some form of AEW programming because this is just, it's weird. I have a theory that maybe WWE is just letting go of these people because they're like, okay, we no longer feel a moral obligation to house every wrestler that we can because we're not the only game in town anymore.
Right. The game is different now. Like whether they want to admit it or not, that is true regardless.
So I wonder if they want to take advantage of it by saying, okay, we no longer need to do that. Like, hey, Trey Baxter, go bump around on the indies. Maybe AEW will hire you. You're more their speed. We no longer feel obligated to try to make you work within our system.
But even if that's true, you take a guy, again, for me especially, that this group, even the latest pattern, a guy like Karen Cross, a guy like Keith Lee, those two are guys. If I had my druthers, I would build a company around them. Karen Cross, I thought he was amazing in NXT. Keith Lee as well. And when Keith Lee arrived on Raw, I thought like things were going pretty well, and then the wheels kind of fell off. Karen Cross, not so much. He was kind of doomed from the start, and they put him in a gladiator helmet. But I just don't get it. And the narrative remains that it's only about the money. Michael Khan saying it's only about the money, and DJ saying that's like you hear that it's about budget cuts. And then this time around, again, the reports being about potentially the vaccination status. I understand that, and that complicates things as well. That's a whole other a lot of weeds to get into there. But nonetheless, the creative frustration remains the same. Of like these are people that you could just really give the spotlight to and they could really shine, and then they're just again Mayim, Lince Dorado, they're just like squandered, and for me it's weird because for so long, Robert, you mentioned WWE scooping people up, and on the flip side of that you have for so long people having WWE as the be all end all, and now we're in this I think the game is changing in the sense of like now it's many people that do go to WWE, it's becoming like well, obviously the common metaphor is about being in prison. It's like, oh, they go there, and then they're released, and they're released from prison, and it's just like this weird thing because then they leave, and then they go off and do great things elsewhere. So I feel like at some point, the other shoe is going to drop, and like people who kind of rise to success on, I know of other companies, the Independence, Impact, whatever, they might look at this and be like, I don't want to go there, like no, and I think we're a long ways away from that, but you will have yet another. This time, 18 deep group of releases of a very, very talented group of people. I think that is something to think about.
This calendar year alone, WWE has released a handful of NXT champions, a handful of WWE champions, women's tag team champions, women's champions. We haven't even talked about Nia Jax yet. It's like accolades no longer mean anything. I don't get it because it used to be like, look, I love Fandango, I love Tyler Breeze. When they got released, it was sort of like, that's a shame, that's shocking considering their tenure.
Right.
But okay. I understand what you're saying. I understand where you're going. When you release somebody like a Zeta Ramir, hey, sorry we couldn't make it work out. where, maybe someday in the future, you fucking release Bray Wyatt, Braun Strowman, and Keith Lee in the same calendar year. You just start to go, oh, do you not want main event stars? Braun Strowman just threw Shane McMahon off of a cage earlier this year. Nothing means anything anymore. Bryan Danielson headlined WrestleMania. Nothing means anything anymore.
Yep. It is crazy.
It is absolutely bizarre. It is absolutely insane that you're going, I think we should let go of Keith Lee and make room for Von Wagner. This is the future of the industry. I like Tony D'Angelo, okay? My dad, that's how I grew up. I grew up talking about, forget about it and gabagoo. That's literally, that's not me doing a bit. That is how I grew up. I think Tony D'Angelo is fabulous. Not at the expense of Keith Lee, not at the expense of Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, Johnny Gargano, any of the other names. His contracts are rumored to be coming up. It's weird. Yeah. I don't give a shit if NXT lost to AEW in the ratings war or whatever. NXT was the hottest brand in professional wrestling from 2015 to 2020.
And they killed it. Killed it dead.
The fact that just because they didn't squash AEW like a bug, and does it not feel like a retaliation method for all of that?
A little bit. I mean, that's a whole other thing we can get into, but Triple H's NXT, the one you just mentioned, is gone. Especially in a world where Kyle O'Reilly and Johnny Gargano, if they do leave, really, then it'll be...
It really is. The remnants of Triple H's NXT, as it stands right now, are Ciampa, Gargano, O'Reilly, and two of those three are leaving. Owens and Zayn, and one of those two are leaving.
Owens is gone. I'm so, I at this point especially, he's gone. I'm just
and then you've got, so that would leave you with Sami Zayn, Tommaso Ciampa, assuming that Gargano and O'Reilly leave, and the Four Horsewomen, because Nia Jax was Triple H's NXT, gone. Oh, no, I'm sorry, and Bliss and Carmella, who have weathered every storm. You know why? And I've always had this theory that it rings true even more now, because they didn't do anything on NXT to stand out, so they felt more like main roster acquisitions,
right?
And they were main roster people. I think it's a fucking shame. I do, and yeah,
yeah, man.
It's absolutely awful. Keith Lee should be a star right now. Karrion Kross should have been a top heel with Scarlett.
Box office draws right there. All three.
Keith Lee, Brock Lesnar is a match that should be happening. Keith Lee, Roman Reigns. You had that be the end of a fucking Survivor Series match. And we're not talking but this is 6 years ago. This is 4 years ago. That was 2 years ago. That is the last Survivor Series in front of human beings. Saw Keith Lee and Roman Reigns as the final two fighting it out.
Oh, man.
It doesn't make any sense. I don't want to get into hypotheticals of are they selling, are they this, but something drastic happened when that pandemic hit.
And I think we're seeing that, especially with all these releases. I think it's people are continue. I've seen a lot of the narrative kind of comparing WWE and Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor did what it did to survive. WWE is doing this to maintain profit. There's a world of difference there, but nonetheless, the effect, the ramifications are present. Where it's the pandemic continues to affect the companies and how they operate, and I think that's a fair observation. And another part of it is that, you can say, I think it's fair to say that you don't have to release these groups and groups of wrestlers for budget cuts. You don't have to make budget cuts by releasing people, right? Or at least, I don't know. There's a whole other thing we get into. Because to me, even I don't want to sound bad. You could release people behind the scenes, I don't know, something like they're not the talent on your show. Because then again, the like half of this is like it's awful from a human perspective, and half of it is like from a creative perspective, like these people that could be helping the show, that could be stars, that could be this about the other thing, you know. And again, the fact is that like this probably isn't over because Michael Covington is saying even with this, they still have over 100 people on Raw, SmackDown, NXT UK. So again, probably
Well, I see
to pick more.
NXT UK if they can help it, because let's be honest, WWE Asia has folded.
Yeah.
WWE and NXT India, not happening. They released Jeet Rama. They've called up Shanky. I think Guru Raj is maybe on 205 Live. I can't see him lasting another one of these rounds. Sorry, that sounds mean. But, I don't mean it that way. It's just like, look at who they're cutting.
Right.
Like.
The writing's on the wall.
So, I see NXT UK maybe folding in within a year or so. Just
could happen.
With the way it's going, with the way everything is like, just WWE appears to be cannibalizing.
It's hard to watch. Hard to understand, especially with Michael Kent saying that, we'll all this talk about the pandemic and, the finances and, losing money or being worried about losing money. The report just broke today. They had the public filing for the new CFO, millions of dollars, a base salary, a lot of money, millions of dollars as $1 million bonus. And I think it was $5 million as in stocks beyond that. Well, I'm sorry, but you're doing that.
I don't want to get into the whole
I know, but
nonetheless, let's be real. There's a reason people are very much mad about people like Elon Musk and Jeffrey Bezos, because it's like you're making so much money, and yet you're like, I don't know, man. I need to make some budget cuts here.
I like this comment from Vernon saying, how much will the pyro at Crown Jewel? Again, you can make budget cuts in very, very easy ways. Maybe you don't need thousands of dollars of pyro at the shows at Crown Jewel or the pay-per-views. Maybe you don't need, who even knows? I'm sure, it's not my job to do that. I'm saying I'm sure if they put some thought into it, they could find other ways to protect that bottom line and profit with without cutting people. Again, that could be amazing top level stars if they're handled the right way. Again, we could be here for a whole nother hour talking about it, but the moral of the story, folks, is that it's a frustrating time. It's a hard time, like in WWE, in the WWE context, to be a fan, to sit here, to try and, to watch the show, enjoy the show, pretend like everything's fine. And then this is the day after all these releases and trying to think everything's okay. And WWE, they're gonna keep on keeping on, but we're sitting here as fans from the outside looking in, it sucks. It does. There's no fans or buts. It's hard to sit just watch this happen. And we try to sit through it and enjoy the wrestling, enjoy what's on what's on the shows. I mean, that's what we're here to talk about. But obviously, you can't talk about WWE, talk about these things without acknowledging all these things happening in the background, because who even knows couple months down the line who on this show might be next on the chopping block. So it does matter. It does impact the show, and that's all these things are why it's really crappy. Period.
Yeah, but with that being said, I do invite you all to sit down with us and enjoy wrestling. And I look, I know it's rough, but I invite you all to just find what you like in wrestling, support it, support your favorites, support their merch, do all that stuff. I'm gonna try to do the same, That's
all you can do, Enjoy the wrestling, whatever that means to you. We're here talking about SmackDown, talking about WWE, but enjoy the wrestling, period. The wrestling world is a very wide, wonderful place. So as Robert said, find the wrestling that you do like. And if you're a WWE fan, well, we all try and weather the storm and get through times like this. It's happened before, right? We had the releases in the past, and the initial crappiness kind of passes, and it's back to business as usual, for better or worse. And again, the major point here: many of these people aren't just going to be fine; they're going to be great. was whatever their non-compete clause expires, 30 days, 90, whatever it might be, they're going to be off to the races. They're going to maybe not everybody, unfortunately, that's the nature of the business, but the really top level ones, the people that worse than years should have been top level stars, they're going to get a chance to shine. I have to believe that a guy like Keith Lee, someone like me, Cameron Cross, whoever it might be just fine. So that's what it boils down to, and we got to weather the storm as best we can. And that's what we're here to do with all shows that we do, good, bad, in between. We're here to talk about it. Robert, you and I are here to talk about SmackDown on Monday. John Clark and I will be back here to talk about Raw and NXT on Tuesday. Otherwise, we've got a great stream of interviews coming at you guys. Bill Perdue recently interviewed Booker T. That one up recently, and he also interviewed Nyla Rose of AEW, so make sure to check that out. Dominic D'Angelo interviewed Mick Foley recently. All these things and more, always available, so make sure to leave a like and subscribe. We appreciate your support and for all of your comments, for keeping the conversation going. And with that being said, Robert, or else we do one thing above all others. Can you tell me what that is?
Oh, hold on 1 second. Before I do, I want to just invite you all to kindly follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and all the other social medias at DeFelice. Follow me on Twitch at DeFelice. I want to try streaming there more. So if you do that, I thank you. And of course, above all else, try to sit back, relax, and enjoy wrestling.
Indeed. Thanks for listening, everybody.